Hello and welcome to the 21st episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast, where we discuss the past little week plus that has been the New York Rangers. And, there have been a lot of stretches that really are a perfect example of the New York Rangers. This might be the most New York Rangery of all New York Ranger stretches.
Yeah, we got a taste of everything this team brings to the table in this past week or so.
Anything you could possibly hope for was perfectly on display, from just dominating feel-good wins to, oh my god, what are we even doing here?
Yeah.
Just so mint. And so you want to start with the Anaheim game?
Yeah, I feel like every week we do one of these. There's always one game where they play a bad team and it shows, and there's not much we could really say about it. This was definitely one of those. The Ducks are not good at hockey at all, and I think they were missing quite a few players in that game.
Yeah.
Like I know Zegras just came back tonight, so I know for a fact he didn't play there. And then like Drysdale, they were missing a lot of guys, and they already aren't great as it is. So. Really, I mean, if that game was any closer, we'd probably have a lot to say about it. But it was 5-1 against a very bad team that I think they're still worse than the Sharks in the standings somehow.
I think you're right.
So yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about it, but
they took a team that is absolute garbage and they beat them into the dirt. Which I'm proud of them for that, but also. You did the absolute bare minimum, so good job, but also it was the Ducks, and I would be flabbergasted. Oh, the Sharks are back at the bottom. Good for them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're
it's still not good if you're really anywhere near them, because I don't even think they have 10 wins yet, so...
Monfrere, they have 12 now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Sharks are still in single digit, though.
I feel like we've talked about the Sharks a lot on here for some reason, but I will give them credit because for a while there I didn't know if they were going to be able to win a game. So the fact that they're they're still not good, but at least they're kind of a team in the league. I give them credit because it was looking really really bad for a while.
Congratulations to them for looking like a possible team. And not just the lowest level of low.
Yeah, because for the first month, they were losing 10-0 every game.
They got 9 wins.
Give them credit.
That's incredible.
I give them credit for pulling out of it a little bit.
Yeah, the only notes I have for that Anaheim game were, it's cool to see Kreider get a couple. I think that was one of the starts of the goal streak for Zibanejad, which is neat.
I believe so, yeah.
Adam Edstrom, with 4 seconds left, got his first goal, which is really cool that a giraffe was able to get one,
I want to say for him, because I don't think there's going to be any other point where we have the opportunity to talk about him. I was really impressed by him, because usually, I mean, not all the time. I do like Johnny Brodzinski and guys like that, but this goes for any team. But for whatever reason this year, it just seems like every AHL call-up seems... they look like they belong in the league. Like, they don't look completely out of place. Mm-hmm. And I was definitely pretty impressed by him. Not that he scored 7 points or anything like that, but I just thought overall his game was good enough to where I am comfortable if we do have to call him up again. And I felt that way about just about everyone we've seen this year. I mean, Brodzinski's been... he's been... an Energizer Bunny, in his time here this year, which is cool. I don't think I've felt this good about him in his time with the Rangers. He's never really been a bad player, but it's just one of those guys where, if Brodzinski's in the lineup, you're kind of not really expecting him to contribute anything. I thought he's meshed in really really well with everyone else. And Edstrom, I didn't really know much about him whatsoever before that game, and he was game time decision, I believe, because Benino took warm-ups and then apparently went up to him and said, "Yeah, I'm not playing tonight, so this is your debut." And he was just like, "Oh, okay."
Well,
He literally said, like, after the game that he didn't even really take shots or anything in warm-up because he wasn't expecting to play at all. And then Benino said that, like, as they were exiting the ice from the warm-up, and I couldn't even imagine that, like, your NHL debut being in that situation, and it's cool that he got a goal there, so.
I will say, on that note of him being the game time decision, because of that, they did not have him take his rookie laps. I thought it was neat that he got to travel with him to Boston and do it there. That's
Yeah, in his second game.
I'll throw that out there. He might be the first ever Ranger that I can think of that got his rookie lap after scoring his first goal.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody really realized that until after the game. They were like, "Oh, yeah, he should have
wait.
gotten that."
I love the thought
that-
of the entire team flying to Boston being, oh shit, Adam.
Yeah, we made a mistake there. Yeah, it's that was funny. Yeah, I mean the Ducks game. It's we've said it many times. It's pretty cool that at least pretty consistently they're winning the games we feel like they should. Obviously, there's a couple, like the Senators game I could think of, off the top of my head and stuff like that. But for the most part, in comparison to the last 2 years where they would have 2 shots against bottom 5 teams in the league in a period, it's just a nice change of pace a little bit. But yeah, I really don't have much to say about the Ducks game. I think Igor was in net that game, and I think that what
Vice
has
versa.
gotten
He
him.
got the Boston game.
Yeah, that's right. But regardless, he is definitely back for sure.
Yeah.
His stats might not be, otherworldly, which is perfectly fine. I think there was just a lot of arguments about him, and we talked about that on the last episode for no reason. Like, he was going to figure it out. And it's definitely good that it seems like he's gotten his confidence back. That Boston game was frustrating while it was going on.
Yep.
But I think the last time we, right after that Boston game when we came on here and talked about it, I kind of expected the next one between those two teams to be much less, a lot lower scoring of a game.
Yeah.
The last one got very out of control, and I think when you have two of the top teams in the league, they kind of look at themselves and say they have to get back to their respective systems for the next one, because the first one was ridiculously messy. I thought Swayman was very, very good in that game.
Yes.
The Rangers didn't. I mean, they didn't play their. Obviously, considering you're playing the Boston Bruins, who were trying to play lockdown defense the whole time, you're not really expecting them to get 900 scoring chances in that game. But the saves he was asked to make, I thought he was spectacular in.
Mm-hmm. Swayman definitely had a very nice night. I was astonished to find out the Rangers somehow had 34 shots in that game. And as I look at the box score, Panarin had 10 shots in that game.
Yeah.
Good lord. Swayman did really well. That was also, I think, the game that Shesterkin finally woke back up. That if you come to the end of the season when he finishes as Igor Shesterkin, I think that's the game we can point to. And there were some great saves that Swayman had to make. I'm happy the Rangers won that game for the lone reason that I can say that was one of the most boring games I have watched in a while. That it just felt at points like it was dragging. And
yeah,
I will give him credit. I said going into that, it was important to beat Boston a second time because over the past God knows how many years, it feels like, especially Boston, has just punked the Rangers. They've punked a lot of teams. The Rangers are not exclusive in that club. But to be able to beat Boston in a game where both teams are completely out of their comfort zone and having to just play wild, high-octane, barn-burning offense, but then also go into Boston where both teams are playing significantly more conservative, a lot more lockdown, and get a win in that game. The Rangers are, I feel, finally those guys. They are the team to beat in the East. they
Hmm.
look good, and I think that game was just a massive step for the Rangers as an organization to say, no, we are the team that other teams should be worried about coming to them come time for the postseason, not that we need to fear them. And that's something that I can't really ever remember the Rangers being, especially not in recent memory.
Hmm.
Obviously, our only deep playoff run of the past 5 years was kind of, I don't want to say luck, but a lot of the power of friendship guided that
Yeah,
Eastern
a lot
Conference
of
final
things
run.
went our way. So, yeah, I think if listen, if let's say if Boston, won that game 5-0, I think
Yeah,
we have a much different outlook about anything else because you can't even
absolutely.
really point to the first win or anything like that. Like it definitely feels it would have felt much different if that happened. That's the thing as well. I mean, that's the thing we were kind of asking for the last time we were on here. Like, just if you can beat them a second time, it's absolutely huge for how you feel about yourself as a team, and um, especially to win it, to win both of them in two completely different ways. Like, let's say if we completely just Igor Shesterkin'd our way to both those wins and didn't really deserve either one of them, that obviously that you can't really hang your hat on much there. The first one you outscored a team that outscores basically everyone for the past 2 years, and then
Yeah.
the second one you just got the upper hand on basically how they wanted to play. Like they were trying to get us to fall into their system a little bit, and you won it that way as well. Um, at what point are we going to talk about David Pastrnak in that game?
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
ridiculous.
He didn't
I'll
get
let you go
suspended.
first because I got a lot to say.
He did not get suspended for that.
Mhm.
He did. Did he get a fine?
Maybe. I don't know,
I
but
don't.
I don't think it matters. Like it whatever it was, it's pocket change to him. So
It's
I
so.
don't.
I am. Look, the fact that the MSG broadcast before that moment was talking about, okay, a big matchup that we're going to watch in this game is going to be Pasternak and Lingrid because they do not like each other. Like
Mhm.
the pocket change paid interns for MSG knew that those two players hated each other and that anything
Yeah.
they did was going to be fueled because they were seeing red mist and wanted to get the other player.
Mhm.
And the first hit that Pasternak had on Lingrid was fine. That was clean.
Mhm.
And then you have the main incident, and I don't go on the Twitter the Twitter universe as much as other people do. I didn't see too many Bruins fans saying that it was clean,
Mhm.
but I know that there were some that were saying it was clean.
Mhm.
And that is more than zero. I I physically cannot comprehend how you can see that and just think, "Oh yeah, that's clean." And it happens to Ryan Lingrid so goddamn much.
Mhm.
He has missed not a lot of time, all things considered. I mean, that was our 32nd game. He's missed 2 games to this point.
Mhm.
And despite the fact that it feels like every other game he is either bleeding or having medical assistance over on the bench because some other team decided, oh, look, it's Ryan Lingard, time to take a cheap shot.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
like, that was. I think that might be the most egregious hit Ryan Lingard's ever taken. It's gotta be up there.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. But I
And
mean,
it
I don't know. Like you said, it's just been so many times that he's taken a hit like that.
I think it's a joke that he didn't get suspended. I think it's even more of a joke that Panarin somehow took a penalty for restraining him, and the Rangers did not get a power play out of that. Or let me
Yeah.
rephrase that. They got the power play. They got the last 3 minutes of the 5-minute major. I'll give them credit. At least they understood that it was a major. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that they got that. Just the way sometimes it has been called. I That was absurd. And
Yeah, and I mean it's it just goes to I mean, I think it was a couple episodes or something ago where I went on a rant about it because ever since he's been here, listen, Ryan Lindgren is very physical himself. It's not a surprise where, to see that he has, let's say, bad blood with a lot of specific guys in this league, just because he is one to, you know, lay big hits and get physical and everything like that. So it's not like he shies away from things like that. With that said, I've never seen him hit somebody in the head like that. It's not like he's a dirty player and somebody's giving it back to him. But I said a couple weeks ago, like, it's pretty ridiculous because the only times he ever really misses time is when he does take a hit to the head and he has to sit out a little bit. He took one in one of those games against Columbus, and he was questionable for the entire week. He might have practiced one day for the entire week leading up to the Devils game. Takes another hit to the head in that game. Neither one of them were a penalty or a suspension or anything. Now, the other thing about it, the one in the Columbus game was originally ruled a 5-minute major, and they deducted it down to no penalty whatsoever. So, I don't know how that happened. We already talked about that, and I've said my piece on that specifically because that in itself is ridiculous. It's all the time he takes hits like that, and Pastrnak did get thrown out of the game for it, so obviously there was some form of repercussion for what he did.
Good job,
but
guys.
It's
you did
just
the bare minimum.
Yeah, it's completely different in this case because I know they don't like each other. They have history with each other. But in this specific instance, it's blatant targeting. That is what that is what really ticks me off about it, because the entire, like you said before, the first hit nobody can have any issues with. It was shoulder to shoulder. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. But the entire game, Pasternak's, taking jabs at him, whacking him with a stick, and then it ends with that. And Lindgren is facing the boards, and he's completely defenseless in that situation. I mean, we're lucky that he didn't miss any time from it. That is a blatant hit to the head, and it's blatant targeting. And I just don't know at what point do you start protecting this guy. I know he's basically Iron Man at this point. It's a running joke with the Rangers because he takes hits like that all the time. He will block any shot that's in front of him. So he's as tough as they come. But at a certain point, hits to the head are something to be very, very careful with. I really should not have to explain that. And I'm just very shocked that it wasn't at least a game suspension. Because only for the fact that it's targeting a specific player. Listen, if you do somehow want to make the argument that it was clean, even though you're wrong, it besides all of that, you don't get the benefit of the doubt when it's specifically targeting one guy on the other team. That's the difference maker here. It's not like it was just some, talentless enforcer that's on the fourth line that hits everything in his sight and just happened to, throw his shoulder the wrong way, and he does this all the time. Like, it's Pastrnak having bad blood with a guy and seeing him. Listen, from day one, you learn how to play this sport. You're taught not to hit guys in the numbers, and for whatever reason, I feel like it's a little more common in this era of hockey where you just see these blatant boarding hits all the time, and I don't know when we're going to get it out of the game. The NHL says they're trying to get it out of the game. I haven't seen anything to help that, but regardless of that, like like I said, it's entirely different when it's a blatant targeting of a player. That's what's really setting me off here, because that in itself, especially from a hit to the head, should get you some form of a suspension, period. So
he spent the entirety of the game just hunting Ryan Lindgren. Anytime they were on the ice, they were locked up. And it's not even a matter of, oh, well, that's their top defenseman, of course he's going to lock him up. Like, Fox should be on him in a normal situation because that's your top defensive guy there. Like, he was hunting him the entire time, and any moment he could get a jab at Ryan Lindgren, he did. And I cannot fathom the fact. Like, there are not a lot of times in life that you are just presented the easiest layup of your life. And the NHL player safety department, which is almost an oxymoron at this point, was gifted with this game an opportunity to protect players across the league. Because that is the most blatant targeting that you could possibly ask for of a star player going at a quote-unquote, obviously the Rangers fans do not feel this way, I do not feel this way, targeting a lesser appreciated, very much not household name, unless you're a diehard Rangers fan, player. You had the perfect opportunity to be like, look, we don't care if you're a 60-goal scorer going after a defenseman who's going to finish the season with like 10 points. You cannot do this in our league, and they absolutely whiffed on it. And it's an embarrassment for them not to do that on themselves, and it is insane that it just got to happen, and he got 10 minutes. Yeah. Even if you just throw him a fine, he's making, what, $10 million at least? I think it's more than that. He
has to be. It's at very minimum like 8. There's no way he's making less than that.
Like,
so
the 5,000 is not going to make him blink, and you can't even do that. It's just a joke.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I was saying. We've already had this discussion this year. It's this specific guy that is very, very important to the team, and you see him take these hits like that all the time. And thankfully, he is tough as nails, and he very rarely misses time from it. But every time he's out of the lineup, the Rangers look like a different team. And so he's very, very important to us. And it's just disappointing that it happens constantly, and there's very rarely anything done about it. I mean, it happened back-to-back games this year. With Columbus and the Devils, those ones were egregious, and there's been plenty others, not only this year but throughout his career, and I just don't understand how we're not protecting this guy. It's just mind blowing to me, and like I said, we're just very lucky that you basically have to shoot him in the heart for him to miss any time. So
oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, it feels good to win that one, though. Yeah. And the one last thing I'll say about that specifically, Brad Marchand, who is, I mean, he is one of the dirtiest players that has ever played the sport. He didn't argue that whatsoever. Like, he didn't argue possibly being thrown out, he didn't open his mouth, not 1 second. So that should say a lot.
Do you understand how bad something has to be for Brad Marchand to just be like, nah, it's fair? Like, yeah. He was just like, I've never seen him so timid to a referee. And
yeah,
that alone should have made someone in the NHL office go, oh, we should look into this. I mean,
yeah, like, cause I mean, he argues just about any call, regardless of things like that. I didn't see him even walk up to a referee for more than a second when that happened. So no, that should say a whole lot.
Because after it, when the ref was explaining to the captains, he said something like he put his hand on Truba's shoulder, like consoling him like a dad does a child. Like, that's how bad it was.
Yeah, the other thing is, I don't understand how people were trying to say that Lindgren should have his head up there. It doesn't make any sense. What do you mean
that
have his head
open
up?
Ice.
His head up to look at the fan eating popcorn in front of him. He has his head to the boards. And the other thing too, he's a lefty. So he's trying to chip the puck to his left there. It's not possible for him to turn his body and do anything other than that. It's so mind blowing. It really is, and like you said, it's disappointing that it's not just just a specific instance. Like there's been so many times they've had the opportunity to actually lay the law down and take action for things like this, and they just don't. And it's not surprising at this point. Like they will never improve in their quote unquote player safety. They talk all the time about trying to get hits like that out of the game, and then they just let things like that slide. So it is what it is. But regardless of all that, it's definitely very, very nice to win that game. Vinny Trocheck took that game over. 2 goals, 1 late, and then the OT winner. So
just magnificent night by Vincent Trocheck. I want to say he's on like almost an 82 game point pace this year. He's got
he's been awesome.
He's got 28 and 31. I don't think that counts tonight. Did he have anything tonight? I think he had an assist.
I think he had an assist. I think it was just one assist.
Totally
but
wrong. He's been this season, because I complained a fair bit about Trocheck last season. This year he has been exactly what they signed up for. He's been the guy that we were promised, and hopefully he can look even more like that guy we were promised come postseason, and he can be that absolute pain in the ass, which is the whole reason you signed up for Vincent Trocheck at 5.6?
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No,
it's definitely not cheap.
It's not cheap, but he is looking very solid. That was a magnificent game by him. And
it's a night in, night out thing from him so far, I think, because he does everything. I think he did drop down to second or third in the league overall face-off wise, but I will take anything near that, so I don't really care if he's number 1 or not. Let's face it, a lot of the reason the Rangers power play is that good is because he just doesn't lose face-offs. It's specifically, we're recording this right after they just beat the Sabres tonight.
Yeah.
And in that game, they had a lot of opportunities, and I didn't really see him lose a draw, and he wins them cleanly. So I think the Rangers are still first in the league on the power play. He is a big, big, big reason for that. Just winning them very cleanly to Panarin back, and then it's just the Rangers just take over from there. And he obviously plays great defense. The other thing that I heard them talk about on the MSG broadcast tonight is he really doesn't get rattled. He's a guy that, the only time he will, let's say, get rattled is when he's angry at what's happening in the game, like with a specific player or something like that. But he's not the type of guy to lose focus at any point. He's very, very consistent, and we've definitely, given him quite a bit of criticism on here, just for not really being noticeable last year. I would say I didn't really think he moved the needle too much. It's at the point now where I think he's a very, very crucial part of this team, and at this point, I don't know how you take him off the second line, even when Hedl comes back. So he's been that good. So to have him there, and like we just said, it's not like we're paying him a cheap contract, so it's very nice to see him fully bring what we expected from him.
He has definitely earned back his spot on the second line, and him with Panarin, they've rekindled something, and it has been spectacular to see, because Panarin is never going to be that in the boards grinding away guy. But Lafreniere and Trocheck have both been more than happy to get down and dirty behind the net, behind the goal line, along the boards. And he's looked wonderful. His face-off win percentage is at 63.4 on the season.
That's ridiculous.
It was 63 again tonight. And it feels like every single time that it's on a face-off, I don't know where I would find face-off numbers. Every time it's a face-off on a power play, it feels like we win it. And that gives way to the best power play in the league. You're dead on there. It's number 1. Also, this is fun. Rangers are the only team to have a top 5 power play and penalty kill.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the penalty kill has not really fallen off at all at any point this year. So they've been awesome.
Spectacular. And yeah, that Bruins game was a very nice win. And are we good with that? Because speaking of incredibly nice wins,
Yeah, I'm good
the
with
Toronto
the
game.
Bruins game.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's just a
absolutely
perfect bounce back considering you looked like you didn't care about being on the ice the last time you played them before that. That was huge for them because honestly, I thought they played just about a perfect game apart from Austin Matthews, who I mean, he's just not really
Yeah.
stoppable. At least in at least in the regular season, he's not stoppable.
Of all the people that you're gonna let score, a dude who's cracked 70 is like, yeah, I can get that. I mean, he's got 25 to this point. He's probably gonna score 60 again. I think he's on a better goal rate than Ovi. I'm just, yeah, you know, he kind of does that.
Yeah, because specifically, I honestly forget what the first goal looked like, but I know the second goal that he scored, it was like, I mean, he had defenders on both sides of him. He didn't really have much space to shoot. Like, he wasn't even physically able to turn his body to get full power on the shot, and it went like 100 miles an hour top shelf, and I'm like, okay, like, you literally cannot do anything, because even when you don't give him space, it's just every shot he takes is an absolute missile. So he's special, and I think, yeah, he might be on. I think he scored at least one tonight as well. So I think his pace on the year is looking pretty ridiculous. But
almost positive he did.
Yeah, that game is that was, like I said, other than that, that was just about perfect from the Rangers, because there's just no stopping him. Nobody really has come up with an answer for him. And other than that, I thought they played terrific. So
the first goal was a really good rush, and it was a beautiful pass from Morgan Riley over to Matthews.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of chaotic in front. The second one, he was guarded. Like, there were people there.
Because while I was watching it, it was like he was surrounded to the point where I couldn't even see the puck from that angle, and he just fires an absolute missile, and I'm like, oh, like that just happened, and I was like, all right, yeah, I mean, he's just that's just what he does. So.
And then you had Brendan Schneider, who did his best impersonation of Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
That was disgusting. That might be one of the best defenseman goals of the past few years. That can sit very comfortably with the Fox end-to-end and Keandre Miller embarrassing the Panthers a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was really, really nice.
I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, 3 of the Rangers' goals in that game went off of Leafs defensemen as well, which is...
Yeah. It's, hey, I mean, you'll take it though, because it just throw it on, and the Leafs are known for funny things happening to them. So the other thing that I want to mention about them specifically, they don't really play defense, do they?
No.
Like they're really not very tough in their own end. They just gave up 9 goals to Buffalo, and in the game we were playing against them, I was like, wow, they're just like giving way too much space. Like, they don't really play hard defensively, and I don't know. It's people question why they haven't really done much in the playoffs. It's because of the only goals they score are highlight reel goals, and they don't have goaltending or defense. So that's kind of why they're in that boat. So
like, people are, because obviously there are some people that were like, oh well, the Rangers just got lucky in that game because they were deflecting off of them. Like, no, that. They're throwing it on because there's not a defender in front of them for a mile. Like, the defensemen are basically touching the goaltender. Yeah, you're just going to toss it on there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, shocker, it ends up in the back of the net. That's a wild concept. Mika had another 2. He's... Again, the Philadelphia game happened, and Mika Zibanejad just kind of woke up. It would be
he's all the way back.
It would be in the Rangers' best interest if they could schedule a Philadelphia Flyers game for, like, opener next year.
Yeah.
Just if they could start their year against Philadelphia, he would score 150 points. And I'm only kind of joking in hyperbole when I say that.
Yeah, it's just because he scores these ridiculous goals against them, and then he just realizes who he is, and he gets all his confidence, and then this is what happens. I think in the Oilers game they showed some sort of graphic that since one of the days in November, he's had more points than Panarin. So he's like all the way back. It's not like a super recent thing. He's at over a point per game again. So I mean, he just always seems to slump early in the year. It is what it is, but I mean, he's going to end up with probably 90 points again.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3 points tonight, which we'll get to in a little bit.
I want to say that put him at 14 points over the last 7 games.
Yeah, so he's all the way back for sure.
He is very much alive and well, and God, the Edmonton game and then tonight were just filthy by him.
Yeah.
As far as the Leafs game go, I'll put another one out there. Shesterkin had a really good game in that. I want to say he stopped 33 of 30 or 31 of 33. Again, that he is very much coming back. Tonight was another game. I know he allowed 3, but like holy God.
Mm-hmm.
Overtime alone, all the way back. All the way back.
Yeah.
And I think that I feel good with the Leafs game. Is it time for Edmonton?
Yeah, I think it's time to unfortunately talk about that one. Yeah. Where do we start? Yeah, that was about it though. Yeah, I mean credit for him because that was like, I mean, Blake Wheeler's face said it all. That was pretty ridiculous.
What a good meme we got out of that.
Yeah.
Such a shame that the lights went out in MSG after that moment and we didn't get to finish the game.
Yeah, it was canceled after that. Yeah. All things considered, I thought the Rangers played very well for 2 periods.
Yep.
Unfortunately, typically want to play well for 3. Jonathan Quick made a lot of really, really outstanding saves in that one.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously it didn't matter in the end. But I thought for the first 2 periods they were just about as lights out as you can ask for, and they did get. I mean, they probably could have scored like 5 goals in the first 2. Unfortunately, they didn't.
Skinner picked that game to just be like, "Hey, what if?"
Yeah, he made like a ridiculous like blocker save, like diving blocker save on Mika in that one. I was like, dude, what? Like he's terrible.
You've
like
been
how
a sieve.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said,
he has an 886 save percentage this year.
Yeah, and then he just decided to be elite for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's frustrating. Because it just seems like every goal the Rangers give up or every game they lose is just pure laziness and getting away from their system.
Yep.
And I think the Edmonton game is a perfect example of that. Like, I mean, you had, for the first 2 periods, you had Connor McDavid, like, slamming his stick against the glass because he was frustrated because he couldn't do anything. And then the third period, the Rangers looked so beyond disinterested. It's not even funny. Like, that one was as frustrating as it possibly gets because it was just every goal given up was like they literally were not trying whatsoever. The one that sticks out to me is I think it was Fogel's goal where you had Fox and Mika trying, quote unquote, trying to poke check it from him and just not doing that whatsoever, and he gets just a clean shot on and it goes in. And I'm like, guys, like, what? That was after the timeout where Laviolette screamed at them too. So I was just mind blown at that. It was, listen, when they went down, 2-1, I was like, all right, like Edmonton they tend to do that. Like they're one of the most high powered offenses and they'll score goals quickly on you. I didn't expect it to get that out of hand. It was every goal they gave up was just like, what is going on?
I've never seen a backup goaltender have that brutal body language and be right.
Yeah,
Quick was so beyond pissed, and I'm just like, yeah, no, you're correct there, Jonathan. I agree. That was an unbelievable. Because shots in the second period, there was a point where shots were 10-1 in the second.
Yeah.
You finished the game. McDavid had 1 assist, and it was a secondary. That, like, if you told me before the game you're gonna hold Jonathan Quick, or not Jonathan Quick, good God, Connor McDavid, Jesus.
Yeah.
If you told me going into it you were going to hold McDavid to a secondary assist, I'm like, oh, cool, they're winning by 5. No, they end up losing by 1 and or 2, depending on how you view that. I mean, by score, you lose by 1, but it was scored with 0.1 seconds left, so...
Yeah, so it is what it is. I don't know. I was just it felt like the whole time it's just like, okay, they're going to win this game. Just because you had Quick playing completely lights out, and it just seemed like the Oilers had no answer for anything you were doing until you stopped doing everything you were doing. I don't know.
There was, towards the end of that second period, the most electric penalty kill I have ever watched by this team. And it doesn't matter. Like, it just...
Yeah, you had Trouba in the middle of it just go over to Draisaitl and knock him on knock him on the ice. I was like, oh, this is how this game's gonna go. Like he just completely rocked them against the boards and the Garden erupted. I was like, oh yeah, they're winning this game. And then we all know what happened. So
that was such a abysmal third period defensively, and I mean, good on him for the final 5 of really trying, but also maybe play with like half that intensity for the final 20 minutes of the game, and you don't have to. That'd be great. I'm gonna throw it out there. I understand why it was not called a goal, because that is the rule.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah,
but there was this time this season, I don't know if you remember this, where the Rangers were playing a game and the whistle blew. And
I do remember that, yes.
The puck was loose, and it trickled into the net. And the referee decided that they were going to change the rule book and call it a good goal. Because it was clearly going to be a goal if they didn't blow the whistle.
Yeah.
And then in that game last night against Edmonton... I don't know if you know this, but there was a puck that happened to fall on Artemi Panarin's stick where the goaltender was basically off along the boards.
Yeah.
To the point where even if he had a mask on, he isn't getting over there. And
I don't know. This is about to be our weekly ref rant that we do every single week, so.
Again, that is correct. You are right. That is no goal. My issue arises with the fact that and again, the Rangers lost that game because they played horrible defensively in the third period and just kind of gave up for like 10 minutes. But when the final score is a 1-goal loss and you have a set of circumstances that are incredibly similar to another set of circumstances where you did not get the benefit earlier in the season, it's just a little bit confusing because clearly the NHL can, on a dime, just say, we kind of feel like this should count based on vibes. And
yeah, it's just every rule in this league is completely up for debate in the moment. And specifically with this one, I just think it's very funny. Obviously, this one was on ESPN Plus. And they have their rules analysts, so to speak, come on and do his thing. And while they were reviewing it, I just think it's interesting that he was saying that if a scoring chance is imminent, while the goalie is, if there's an equipment issue or something like that, it will be called a good goal. And while he was saying that part of the rule, they were showing in the middle of the replay where Skinner his ice wasn't even, or his helmet wasn't on the ice yet. Like he was in the middle of shaking the helmet off. And while he was doing that, Artemi Panarin was mid-shot to the open net. So I'm watching that and I'm listening to what he's saying. And I'm like, so listen, I understand if the goalie's helmet doesn't stay on his head. you should blow the whistle. I'm aware of that. But I just don't understand why we're ignoring a blatant part of the rule that's written in the rule book from the National Hockey League. I mean, listen, the Rangers didn't deserve to win that game, so I'm not trying to sit here and act like that was, oh my God, the ref screwed us. I'm not trying to say that, but it's just every week we have one funny little play that happens from the refs and their decisions, and I just don't understand. Like I said, I 9 times out of 10 I get it. Like if the goalie's helmet comes off, you should blow the whistle. I don't want any goalie in this league to take a 90-mile-per-hour slap shot directly to the nose. So I'm not
a good
disputing that. But just for it to be in the rule itself that if a scoring chance is imminent, the play is allowed to continue, and it's just like he was in the middle of shaking off his helmet, and the puck is going in the net, and we're ignoring that part of the rule. That's all I'm trying to say.
Like, that's
it's just what?
Like, that's the beauty of it, is you have this built-in failsafe to the rule of if the scoring chance is imminent, the puck is on his stick.
Yeah, I don't know. Why are we ignoring that?
This isn't a case of where, because if Skinnerd was in the blue paint and the helmet was coming off and they wave it off, absolutely, that makes sense. He's out of the blue paint. He is off a solid 5 or 6 feet out of the blue paint. Like, even if the mask was on and he was fine, he's not getting over to that. And
yeah,
you're taking off a goal in that point of, again, a very close game. It was 1-0 Rangers at that point. You clearly this season have decided that rules are kind of just, and not just this season, every season, forever and ever, amen, that rules can just kind of change when you feel like it. It's an
and just to quickly mention, there was Listen, I think it was like super early in the year, and I forget even what team they were playing, but I remember that at one point, Quick's glove came off.
Oh yeah, how could we forget?
And they didn't blow the whistle in that, so I'm like, obviously, I don't think it was a goal at that point or anything like that, but the play went on for like 8-9 seconds after he lost his glove. And I'm just like, what are we doing here?
They didn't even stop it for him. They stopped it because the puck went out of play.
Yeah. I was like, it's just like like I said, I understand why it was called no goal technically, but it just doesn't. There's no consistency with these calls, and it's like I said, just for that failsafe to be within the rule itself, and we just ignore that when we feel like it, is frustrating, to say the least, because it's just like, I don't know. You're just deciding when these rules are applicable. Because watch, there's going to be, at some point this year, where let's say, like, Igor's helmet, it comes off or something, and the puck's loose and the other team scores, and then they're going to be like, well, actually, in the rule, if there's a, imminent scoring chance, then blah, 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 and we're going to be like, oh, okay, right, yeah, that is in the rules. My mistake. You're right. That is part of the rule. Okay,
How could one forget that you built in a failsafe?
Yeah, like I said, the Rangers didn't deserve to win that game.
No.
But just as a hypothetical, like, if they go up 2-0, who knows what happens the rest of the way. So, regardless, it is what it is. I don't know. It's just I've been watching this sport my entire life. I've watched every Rangers game that I can, since I was old enough to understand what was happening, and I just have no clue what the rules are at this point. Like, because they just change every single night. So,
again, I understand that there are some strange rules in other sports that I watch and adore. What is a catch? The strike zone is a pain in the ass. I get that. The NHL's ambiguous rule book, I can describe it as like, when you have some weird online recipe and there gets to a point where they just say, measure the garlic with your heart?
Yeah.
That is the NHL rulebook. It's just,
Yeah.
go on how you feel at the time. If you think it shouldn't, just call it off. That it's
Yeah, it's just up to you
so
in that scenario. Yeah, like I said a million times, they didn't deserve to win it, and
absolutely not.
it is frustrating in that specific decision by the refs. But regardless of all of that, I will say it's just an ongoing theme where it's like you just see two different sides of the coin with this team, and that is something we've talked about last year. That is something we definitely talked about in the playoff series against the Devils, where you just see two completely different sides of how they like to play. And it's been to a way less severe extent this year because, like I've said a million times, like last year, the Rangers were either playing their A game or they looked like they had no clue what was happening and it looked like they had never practiced together and they don't know what their teammates' names are. That's not something I've seen this year, but we have seen quite a few times where they just decide to let off the gas defensively, and especially against a team like the Edmonton Oilers, who can very well score 7-8 goals whenever they feel like it. That is the last team you want to do that against. So it's frustrating. You would have definitely loved to win that one, but at least they came back tonight, and it wasn't a pretty win, but it's 2 points nonetheless.
But it was a win.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's always tough against Buffalo for whatever reason. I am still decently high on them for whatever reason. I am. They do have a good offense. Like they really do. They have some guys that can really put the puck in the net.
Yep.
And I think on the year they're like first in the league in scoring chances on transition. So it's not like we're talking about like a team that is not capable of anything. And they've beaten some good teams this year. Like they've beaten the Bruins, Vegas, like a lot of really, really good teams. So they're not a pushover. It's just frustrating, like I said before, where it just feels like for the past couple weeks, every goal the Rangers give up is just from pure laziness. Like apart from Austin Matthews being generational, every goal they give up is just like it looks like they're just disinterested. There were every Buffalo goal tonight was like that, where they were all just puck watching, and I don't know what that is. It's just they'll go into Boston against the Bruins and completely lock them down for 60 minutes plus overtime, and then just do whatever it was the past two nights defensively. The other thing I do want to quickly say, it's not that bad, but I've not been thoroughly impressed with Adam Fox defensively, as of very recently, and it's not completely terrible. He's still very, very good. It's not like he's just the sole reason for every goal given up or anything, but there's just been quite a few times in the past couple weeks where our top pair is on the ice and it's just a complete defensive breakdown. And I'll treat it, just before I say anything else, I'm going to treat it the same way that I did with Igor Shesterkin. Like, Adam Fox is a very, 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 very good player. If he struggles for a little bit, he's going to figure it out. It's not like he's going to completely fall off a cliff and never be good again for the rest of his career. That goes without saying. But he does deserve some criticism. Like, I don't think, at least as of recently, he hasn't been giving his 100% effort on a lot of these plays. Offensively, he's still there. Like, that, no matter what he does, that'll never leave him. But I don't think he's been himself defensively, specifically the past few games. Like the Edmonton one, I was ready to rip him a new one. And tonight there was a few where I was just like, dude, like it just looked like he wasn't skating hard, and it's just frustrating to watch. But like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and tear him apart. Like, I'm gonna treat it the same way I did with Igor. He's going to figure it out. It's just frustrating, specifically in last night's game against the Oilers, where it's just like you basically had that game in your hands, and it's not just him, but it's like there was one or two where he just didn't even attempt to break a play up, and it ends up in the back of the net, and it's that those things just can't happen. So.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you. We should definitely cut him and send him down to Hartford.
Yeah, he's worthless. So.
Yeah, absolute wasted $9 million there. It it's not particularly concerning because there are points where he does this. Again, he is incredibly similar to Igor Shesterkin, where there will be stretches of the season where you just go, oh, he's not quite looking himself, and then tonight he was a +3 in the game tonight against Buffalo. It's there. It's very clearly there. And the offense is always there. There was, even when he wasn't getting points tonight, his offense, I thought, looked good. He was good aggressive in the offensive zone, flying around. The Edmonton game left a lot to be desired for me. It's not concerning yet. If there's a 10-plus game stretch where his defense is looking like this, then yeah, that might be a thing to really begin to start the discourse on. Unless something absurdly drastic happens, he is still the top defender on this team, or top defenseman on this team. And even if he takes a step back defensively, you have Ryan Lindgren with him on that pair, and you're fine. The Trouba-Miller pair has been way better than I possibly thought they could be this year. And the Gustafsson-Schneider pair, aside from tonight, has been spectacular. So you're still fine defensively, with Fox having a couple of subpar nights. But it's definitely been more noticeable. Also tonight, I'm just going to throw that out there that Schneider was a -3. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, listen, I have been very impressed with him this year. So I'm not ready to throw him off a cliff like some people are. Like I saw somebody say today that it's worth sitting him for a couple games after the break. I just don't understand why people think things like that. Like, what is that going to do? We're not even going to spend any time talking about that. Listen, if the only guy that makes mistakes at, let's say, just a higher rate than anyone else is your sixth defenseman, I'd say that's pretty much expected. Like I've felt like he's been very solid this year, and if he's the guy that just so happens to make mistakes more than anyone else, I'd say you'd expect that from your sixth defenseman. And it's not like every night he's going out there and just being a complete disaster. Like I said, I've liked him a lot this year, but it just seems like a lot of the goals against definitely have been very frustrating from him specifically, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh, what we need another, we got to trade for someone else." Like, "Oh my god, guys, he's the sixth defenseman. He's the only one that actually let's say I mean at this rate he probably makes one of those terrible plays like 1 in every 5."
Yep.
I'm honestly okay with that, considering we've had defensemen on this team in prior years that make those mistakes 5 times a game for months. So I'm okay with it if he does it every once in a while.
Oh my god, your third-year young defenseman made a bad move. Burn him to the ground.
You're telling me we don't have 6 Adam Foxes on this team? It's over. We have to trade for McAvoy tomorrow, and Schneider needs time in Hartford. It's a disaster. The sky is falling. We're in first place.
I cannot stress this enough. Do you not remember Libor Hayek? Do you not?
I do
remember?
Quite well. Yes.
Do you not remember?
You mean the guy that he just recently signed overseas because he can't get a job in North America? I do remember him. Yeah.
Schneider's third on the team in blocked shots.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, and he's averaging like 15 minutes a night. And he still has 43 blocks to this point.
He's, like I said, he's solid. That's all I can really ask for.
One might say that the 22-year-old third pair, probably sixth defenseman, is not that bad. There are a lot of teams that would murder to have him as a sixth defenseman. There are legitimate teams out there that he probably, if you put him on Anaheim, he's probably their top defenseman.
Yeah, he's definitely going on that top pair for sure.
I
So
also
it's not a bad spot to be.
also I'm just gonna throw this out there because this is a wild thing that I cannot comprehend. This Schneider's has played 150 NHL games.
Yeah, it seems that's crazy. It feels like he has been around for a while, but it feels like he's on maybe 60. So
He's just got such a baby face, and the fact that they call him Baby Trouba, I'm just like, oh yeah, what's he? I was thinking he was a rookie this year, and he played 81 games last season.
yeah, no, he's been around for a little while. The other thing too, it's not like he was a elite 5-star prospect to begin with. So God forbid it might take him a little while to fully reach his potential. Yeah, we need to send him to Hartford because he's not elite and worth $8 million yet. So that's what needs to happen.
I need you to understand that the two top, I did look it up because I was interested. The two top defensemen on Anaheim in terms of points are a person who I'm going to call him Pavel and not try to pronounce his last name. My boy, my good sir Pav, and Cam Fowler, who both have 17 and 15 points, but are a negative 15 and negative 9 respectively.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
You also have Mr. Jackson Lacombe, who is a negative 20.
Yeah, what is he doing?
We are
that negative 20 is
we
crazy.
We are 32 games into the season, folks.
Yeah.
And he is a
That's not good.
One might say that is he's fine. Schneider is a perfectly fine player, and he had that disgusting goal against Toronto. I have absolutely no doubt in him. He's gonna figure it out. He's figured it out. What am I even saying? He has been a very solid player the past few years. And
yeah, and it's just New York sports. Like our lovely fan base just loves to overreact at the drop of a hat. Like for example, that goal against the Leafs after that game, people were like, Schneider's been really solid this year. Like everybody was, giving him his flowers, and then all of a sudden tonight he needs to be sent to the KHL for the rest of his life. I just don't understand why it's such a game by game basis that we have these opinions on players.
That's too good for him. I'd personally take him behind MSG with a shotty.
Yeah, he if he's not scoring 5 points a night and having 8 block shots, he's worthless. He's worth nothing. So
absolutely. Speaking of defensemen, Ryan Lindgren scored a goal tonight.
Yeah,
and
how did they let that happen?
I gotta level with you. This was one of the better Ryan Lindgren offensive games I've watched because he had that goal and underrated on the Mika goal to make it 3-2. He had a beautiful pass banked off the boards to Wheeler that led him perfectly in stride into the offensive zone.
Yeah,
like
that's stuff you don't see every game from him.
He's not gonna get a point for that, but that was such an unreal pass. And then Zibanejad just almost toddler style waving his stick in the blue paint, waiting for the rebound.
Yeah,
was so good.
Yeah, it was. He had himself a very very good game. So obviously we're this is being recorded right after that Buffalo game.
Yep.
We're about to hit this winter break. I think they have 3 days off or something like that. I don't know. I know they play Washington next. I just don't know if it's Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. Yeah, this is a really really good spot to be. Obviously, if they beat Edmonton last night as well, we would be in the clouds. But as of right now, they have 23 wins before Christmas. So and they're not even fully healthy. Igor struggled a little bit. He's not completely himself still. I thought he was terrific tonight, which I don't think we mentioned. He basically saved the game in overtime, so he was awesome.
Multiple
regardless, he's not a complete robot yet, which he's going to figure out how to get back to that point.
It's coming.
And yeah, I mean he's been very very good and has made some ridiculous saves recently, but he's still not himself, and I just think it's very scary that this team has 23 wins already, and we're not even feeling completely comfortable about anything. So far this year, it seems like every week we have to nitpick something, and that's kind of what what I just did a little bit with Adam Fox and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they are very, very good. I believe Kako and Heedle are on their way to coming back. I think Kako just started skating on his own, which by the way, I'm shocked by. Just because I thought he straight up broke his leg or something.
Yep.
Real quick, I think it's very interesting. We don't even know what the injury is. Like, he's still just listed as lower body, which anybody could tell you that.
Yeah.
But they just haven't released what it was. The same thing with Adam Fox. Like, he was out for a significant time, and we have no clue what that was. Like, they just said lower body, and he went on LTIR, and we were like, okay. That was it. We had no clue what happened to him. But Kako, yeah, he's skating already, which I thought his leg was just gone after that happened, so that's impressive. And Heedle, we've already said it, but he could take as much time as he needs. The only update is he's just, progressing, and at least he hasn't had any setbacks or anything. So they're still winning games regardless of all that. And that's just about it. I mean, yeah, the winter break I think is going to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to also quickly mention, I think one of the biggest steps forward I've seen wasn't even on the ice recently. I think it's after that Edmonton game. The players specifically said, like, they're not looking for moral victories anymore because, like, for example, last year or the year before, if that Edmonton game happened, they would have talked in the post game about, oh, we were proud of how we, fought at the end and everything. They said nothing about that. They're like, listen, we're not looking for moral victories. We're not going to talk about how we clawed back. Like, we're expecting to be an elite dominant team, and that's unacceptable. That is very, very refreshing to hear. Just because it's we've seen it many, many times where they would just completely fall apart in a period and lose, and they were like, oh, but for the past, the last 5 minutes, we were kind of good, so we'll hang our hat on that. Like, they didn't say anything of the sort after the Edmonton game, so that. Just hearing that was definitely a breath of fresh air, at least from me. So
It's so nice to hear them actually admit the fact that they have reached an upper echelon and really progressed to a point where you can't just be happy with a good loss. That is not in their vocabulary anymore. And it felt like last season we'd go on long stretches and the head coach of our hockey team would just be talking about, well, we looked good defensively for one period where we held the other team to only 7 shots, but they weren't that good of shots. And now it's, no,
yeah.
we did not win that game. It was a lost... It was a failure. We didn't get that win. You talk about Kako and Heedle coming back and them progressing. The Rangers right now they're tied for first with 2 other teams for 47 points in the league. The teams are Vancouver and Vegas. The Rangers have 2 games on hand against Vancouver and 3 games against Vegas. Igor Shesterkin is not quite there yet. He's been there the past couple of games. They're going to get basically 2 deadline acquisitions in Kako and Heedle when they come back. They're absolutely going to get some kind of deadline acquisition. I understand they have literally like $5 in cap space. But every year that happens where someone has nothing and they find a way to make a trade happen. And again, this is a team that last season Chris Drury found a way to somehow get Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko here. He's gonna
with
pull
just about the same amount of money that we have right
now. Yeah,
So...
just a touch more. He's gonna make something happen. They are as elite as I have ever watched them be. And I am... Again, you can tell it from their overall points. They're the only team with 23 wins. They were the first team to 20 wins. And we're still debating if they're good or not. I think they're good. I think
yeah, especially I think they're like 10-2-1 against I don't know exactly what it is, maybe top 5 teams or top 10 or something. Like they've gotten a lot of these wins against really, really good teams. So
this isn't a case where they're beating up on bad competition, or a Florida Panthers a couple of years ago where they're getting all of these points in OT in the shootout.
Yeah,
They're winning a
which
lot of
is
these
currently
games.
the Islanders right now.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother.
They have like 11 loser points right now.
Good
so
God.
How
are the Islanders and Flyers going to BS their way into a playoff spot?
I don't know. I don't know.
I ask
it's
you a fun question before we call it. As it stands right now, one of the matchups would be Islanders Flyers. Could a playoff series get negative views?
Yeah, thankfully they are in, pretty decent markets, so it wouldn't be as bad, but yeah, that I don't think anybody would really be tuning into that.
7 total goals in that series.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Like that
Philly's been shocking for me. I guess the one thing that I do want to talk about just before we head out of here is Philly's been very impressive. I thought they were going to be terrible this year, so credit to them. At this point, I don't really see how they fall out of a playoff spot. I mean, they very well could, but they're 18, 11, and 4. They're probably going to get a wild card. Mm-hmm. The Islanders are not that good. They have a lot of loser points, so they're in second right now.
They have 9 loser points.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm not scared of them at all.
They have a losing record, Evan. They have 17 losses.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that makes me feel comfortable, and that's the whole reason I'm bringing this up. Is like Carolina looks not good. The Devils won tonight, but like Detroit is. By the way, I'm very disappointed by Detroit. I think they've just completely fallen off a cliff recently.
They should get rid of that Patrick Kane guy.
Yeah, they won last night in a complete barn burner, but they blew a 5-1 lead. Like they're not terrible, but they are kind of a mess. As of right now, I'm not really scared of any of these teams in the Metro. Like the Devils still don't have a goalie, and I don't see how they're going to get a goalie. I think they have a sneaky bad defense. And Dougie Hamilton I think he's supposed to go on LTIR. But even if he was there, like at points this year, he looks like he's playing a different sport in his own end. Like he's looked clueless. They're not bad. I honestly think the Devils will still make the playoffs, but I'm not moved by them whatsoever. Like so far, the only games that they win to where people think they're back is against like teams that just somehow have worse goaltending than them. Like the 3 or 4 teams that somehow are worse than them in that department is typically how they win games. I think tonight, I don't know who was in net for Detroit, but I mean, they won 3-2, and to do that against Detroit, who really doesn't play any defense and just gave up 5 goals, is not that impressive.
Michael Hutchison was in net for the Red. He's still in the league.
Yeah, that's news to me. You just broke that news to me that he's still getting an NHL paycheck. I didn't know that. Yeah, the Devils. I don't know how they've been this disappointing so far, but I also think the Devils have the hardest strength of schedule the rest of the way. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Dude, some poor child for Christmas got tickets to go watch Michael Hutchison and Vitek Vanacek battle each other out.
Yeah, it's I don't know. And the other thing too is for some reason I get the sense internally they still believe in Vitek for some reason. It's some nights he'll be okay, but I think they're like, "Oh no, this is a guy that can, is above average." I don't think that about him whatsoever. But a lot of them think they're getting Connor Hellebuck, and I just don't see how that's feasible. The only one that
884 for Vitek.
The only one I think that is a possibility would maybe be John Gibson, but you'd have to give up a lot to get him. So I don't know. I don't know. Is that really worth the investment? And that's just considering. Go ahead.
No, I'm not saying Anaheim doesn't start to get it back together, because at least so.
Yeah. Because they'd have to be completely on this pace the rest of the way to really think about it. Because he's one of their franchise guys. So regardless, you'd have to give up a lot to get him, and it's different now because at least last year I felt like they were probably a goalie away from really doing something. This year, I think they just there's just way more wrong with them than I saw last year. Like they're still a pretty high powered offense, and they obviously still have talent on that team.
Yeah.
But I just don't think they defend very well, and their fans have been calling for Lindy Ruff to get fired. So I don't know. It's not as plug and play as I felt like it was last year. But the whole reason I'm bringing any of this up is just like it's not a scenario where we're in first, but like the Canes and the Devils are 1 point behind us and they play tomorrow or anything. Like we have a decently comfortable lead, and the teams that are directly behind us are like the Islanders, Flyers, and Capitals. So it's just like I'm not sweating this too much.
I have one final note for this before I'm pretty good getting out. Blake Wheeler has 7 points over his last 6 games.
Yeah, he's. I've been really happy with him.
He's looked
really
solid.
happy.
I almost like paying a guy who's almost always good for like 40 points. League minimum was a good contract.
Yeah, it's almost like him being in his first new team in his career, playing with new teammates for the first time in forever. Might have taken him a little bit to figure it out.
Like,
It's crazy. It's crazy that this isn't a video game.
Like it's important to me that people understand the most recent, up until he signed with the Rangers, the most recent team change he had was going from Atlanta to Winnipeg.
Yeah, like that was a minute ago.
He was a Thrasher. That was the last time that he had to wear a different sweater. Was moving from that dumb little hawk logo to the funny, goofy little jet logo. It is incredibly important that people understand this. And yeah, it took him a minute, but he's looked really solid. He hasn't been dominating. The speed hasn't been as noticeable because he's been playing a lot smarter. And I think he's really starting to get how to play with Mika and Kreider, which is the big thing for me. Because he had the goal against Edmonton, which was just a thing of beauty by Mika Zibanejad, but again, a beautiful finish by him. And then he had the play tonight where he just carries in. He drew enough attention because he had the puck and then let Kreider and Mika do their little Kreider and Mika thing. He's understanding how that group works. Again, go figure. It might take a player more than 2 games to figure that out. And he's not on a crazy pace, but 25, 30 points for the season for league minimum is a very nice I am very happy with that.
Yeah.
You are also bang on right. It's the Rangers. We're going to play the Capitals next. That'll be Wednesday, the 27th. I want to find out who they play after that. So the final 3 of December is going to be home for Washington, on the road in Florida, and on the road in Tampa Bay. That's a back-to-back. That's cool. That's awesome.
Oh, at least it's not with travel, because there's been a lot this year where like they'll play in New York and then just fly to a different time zone immediately after. So at least it's within the same state.
Yep.
You'd rather not be a back-to-back period, but it is what it is.
It would be awesome if it wasn't a back-to-back with a little bit of travel, but at least it's just across the state. I mean, that's probably a bus, so at least you have that. Also, Tampa's been, if I'm not mistaken, underwhelming a bit.
Yeah, for sure. You would definitely like to win that one. I think Florida's been pretty impressive recently, but they're not as scary as they were probably last year.
They've definitely kicked it on a bit more, but that's 3 winnable games, and finishing the month of December with 4-game winning streak would be not too shabby on account that people were wanting to burn it to the ground after the first 6 games of the month.
Yeah.
Talking about it as if it was all over. So, but yeah, I think this is a wonderful way for them to head into the little Christmas break. And I will say, I definitely think I've said my piece. I don't know how you feel, but I'm content with what I've said so far.
Yeah, they've definitely exceeded our expectations so far this this season, at least up until this point. 23 points before Christmas is more than I asked for, so I'm happy with everything. So
Yeah. Well, we will reconvene after the Christmas break. To everyone out there watching, thank you for watching the 21st episode of the Rangers Gameplan podcast. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day and a very Merry Christmas. And until next time, go Rangers.
yep, Merry Christmas and go Rangers.